talk about OT7, and let's talk about that name, Madden Iamaleava, the brother of Nico, the former 5-star. This is a guy that I think you and I and the rest of the scouting team, we've been trying to figure out. There's been a lack of information, but not a lack of in-person context, if that really kind of makes sense, whether it's been the age, whether it's just trying to get a feel for what's going on with the recruitment. Nebraska, UCLA, you got Alabama sniffing around. It just kind of seems odd for somebody that has as much of a palpable name that he has, that you haven't heard more about him. But he had a good weekend in Orlando. Tell us what you saw from him.
Yeah, my alpha dog for the weekend. It was really the weekend of the Madden. So you had Madden Iamaleava, who led his team to the final of that tournament. And then Madden Williams, a receiver in the 2026 class. He was part of the team that won the championship. He had like 12 touchdowns over the course of the weekend. But really, Madden, the quarterbacks are where my eyes are always going to go in this type of setting, especially kids from around the country. And last weekend, it was Bryce Underwood that was there. You had Deuce Knight, Tavian St. Clair. This weekend, it was Madden Iamaleava, Antoine Hill, and Husan Longstreet. I thought Madden had the best weekend of the bunch. He's a guy that I haven't been able to really just put my thumb on, right? 1-year starter. Obviously, he backed up his brother there at Warren High School in Downey, California. He went 11-2 this past season, 58% completion percentage, but he's kind of been like a Yeti. I can't figure him out. And after just getting a chance to watch him both Saturday and Sunday, the similarities between him and Nico are there when you look at the arm. It's very upper body. They can zip it to all three levels, challenge tight windows, drop the arm down. I thought he was awesome. And really, as we head into the June, a lot of these quarterback dominoes have fallen, but like Madden to me is a name everyone needs to know. Like, where is his recruitment going to go? Try to talk to him about that in between games, and he was kind of standoffish in terms of schools that were involved. I brought up Nebraska, I brought up UCLA, and he said really one of the only places he visited this spring was Alabama. Kalen DeBoer was there for a spring practice, which to me got the mind churning a little bit. Okay, I think this is a guy that as more of these quarterbacks make decisions, I can see someone pivoting to him, because there's no question. He's got the arm talent to play in an up-tempo attack, and he's like Nico, not as tall, not as long, but he can certainly, I think, win games on Saturdays.
Going to be really interesting senior season to evaluate with him and kind of see what that looks like. I think Alabama right now, of all the schools to really kind of keep an eye on, where you just don't have a pulse. They've been involved with Deuce Knight. They've been involved with Keelan Russell. You don't really know who their primary target is in that quarterback room. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of follow that and what happens with Madden. He's kind of just sitting out there right now. UCLA still looking for a guy. They landed the transfer from Washington over the weekend.
Demetrius Davis.
Demetrius Davis, blanking on the name, as Damon Williams, the other young freshman surging over there.
Real quick, Alabama, I think, what happens with them? We know Jalen Milroe is going to be the guy this upcoming season. Austin Mack follows DeBoer and that staff over from Washington. I think he, you kind of pencil him in as the quarterback in 2025 and beyond, but you also got Ty Simpson there. But like, what is the Crimson Tide's plan long-term at quarterback? I think that's a fair question. Remember, Julian Sayin leaves for Ohio State, and DeBoer and his staff have been working behind the 8 ball with this crop of 2025 quarterbacks. And it didn't help that Noah Grubbs, was hired at Alabama, leaves to go to the NFL. I think it's kind of a fascinating storyline to follow. Coop, I said we were going to have storylines of the cycle, right? I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head. I think Keelan Russell was certainly one of them. What happens with him? Does he stick with SMU? But what does Alabama do at quarterback? Because they have, kicked the tires on a number of these guys. You said Deuce Knight. How about Bryce Baker, the North Carolina commit? Like KJ Lacey's been there as well. They have been involved with pretty much everyone that's uncommitted. Even got Matt Zollers in for a late visit.
Yeah, my biggest advice would be, not that I need to be giving advice on this topic, would be pick a lane and choose one, right? You just had a top 10 quarterback go in the NFL draft, and Michael Penix Jr. Kalen DeBoer, you see what he's been able to do with that position. Obviously, a really fun and dynamic offense to play in. There's no shortage of selling points there in Tuscaloosa. So you would think right now, I think what they need to do is they need to rehuddle and they need to pick a lane. And what I mean by that, is it Keelan Russell? Is it Deuce Knight? Is it Bryce Baker? Or is it one of these guys like a Madden Iamaleava? The problem is it looks like they've been, a mile wide and about an inch deep. I think they really kind of need to rechange their focus, and we'll see what happens there. It is Alabama. It is Kalen DeBoer. So at the end of the day, I'm not questioning the fact that they're going to get a talented arm, but are they going to get their quarterback in the future? I think that's more the bigger question.
Coop, you know what I would do if I was in their shoes? I would look for a late bloomer, and then I'd go all in on our number 1 ranked quarterback in 2026, Faison Brandon. That's the direction I would go. Not cut your losses here in the 25 cycle. There's going to be coaching changes. I mean, every time, right? It seems like quarterbacks pick their chair in the summer months, and then we have a reshuffling right before the early signing period, which could be moved up this year. It's going to be earlier. So, maybe try to find the late bloomer out there.
Speaking of quarterbacks, let's take a look at other notable standouts from OT7 in Orlando. On the top of the list, how about Texas A&M commit Husan Longstreet from California? We'll talk about him in a minute. Syracuse also with a couple of standouts in Demetrius Samuel and Julian McFadden. Talon Taylor, we'll talk about him. And then Alabama with a couple of commits making some hay. Zamir Smith, Abdul Sanders from Modern Day in California. But Drew, let's start at the top. Husan Longstreet, a guy that we're certainly excited about, ranks number 28. He's the number 5 quarterback in the country in 2025. We have yet to mint 32 5-stars. This is a guy that's in that neighborhood. What did you like from him and what you kind of categorize as a up and down performance?
So I've stole this term from Daniel Jeremiah at the NFL Network, who does obviously an excellent job. I can't remember what quarterback he was talking about when he said that quarterback was a driving range quarterback. I would put Husan Longstreet in the same bucket. As soon as he started warming up with his team, it was like, whoa, just got to watch every route on air. This guy can make all the throws. Love the arm. Bud Elliott from the Cover 3 podcast was out there with me, and he kept saying, wow, like Husan can generate RPMs. Like he has a strong arm. And we've touched on this here in this space multiple times. Like he might have the livest arm of this class. Up and down tournament for him, playing with a new team. Didn't really get a ton of help from his wide receivers when that field kind of shrunk, when they were down like by the 10-yard line. I think he struggled with the ball placement a little bit, but I thought it was a solid showing. This is what we think Husan is. I mean, the arm talent is there, and I've said it in the past, and anyone that sees Husan in person, he is so like twitched up as an athlete. Like there are veins all over his body, and he can beat you with his legs. We've seen that on tape. At Corona Centennial, at 5 touchdown runs out in a game in Hawaii late last season to, seal or preserve a win for his team. I like everything about him. He was decked out in Texas A&M gear. He had the Texas A&M backpack. So, what I thought he would be, can't wait to get him at the Elite 11 finals when we put him hopefully next to Tavian St. Clair and Bryce Underwood and some of these other quarterbacks in June.
Heard some good things just about the competitive temperament of the kid. Did you see any of that in person? Did you feel like you saw like this really dialed, focused individual?
Well, I said when the field shrunk, right, he was throwing up some jump balls to Chris Henry Jr., our number 2 ranked player in the class of 2026. Henry couldn't come down with them. His team ended up losing early Sunday in elimination play, and you could see some steam coming from the ears. Like he certainly was upset about the early exit. I don't know if he could change his flight to fly back across the country, but he was kind of fuming over on the sidelines for a little bit, which I don't know. I think you want to see that, right? Like you want to see a guy at least care. And I know it's club 7-on-7 and it doesn't matter, but sometimes you get these quarterbacks in these settings and they're just throwing it around, not having fun in any way. And, Coop, I don't know if you've heard this from quarterback trainers. The biggest thing, these kids, I mean, you can only throw so many passes a day. Every pass in essence, should probably count in some way. Like there should be some type of plan, a goal, an objective with that throw. And Husan to me seems like a kid, where he's not just out there to have fun. He's trying to get better.
He is, at least from what I've heard out of College Station, a guy that they're really excited about. Not just the physical toolkit, but the way that he's wired as well. And I think you and I have kind of talked about this already. A little bit of a sidebar. A&M under Elko has been a very focused and intentional department, just in terms of how they recruit in their recruiting philosophy. I think everything they've done, they've made sense. The other thing about them, they're on schedule, right? Nothing about them seems like, all right, they got to make a push. They're a little bit behind. Everything that they've done in terms of adding depth, I like what they've done, the offense, defensive line as well. They take players that really kind of fit them in Mike Elko. So A&M, one of those teams to watch. They got a guy in Husan Longstreet.